Hello and welcome to another episode of the Blueprint Roundtable. I'm your host, Chrissy Manzano. I've got Emily and Matthew with us today. And our first topic is going to be around when is it smart to use your network to hire? And I think kind of to set the stage with that a little bit, we're in this realm where it's not just responsible growth from a revenue side, it also means who you hire, right? And there's accountability in all of that. Like there hasn't been in honestly probably 2 decades, right? Where you've got to make the right hire. They're really, you can't chance it not working. And so we're seeing more and more people look at their networks in ways that they haven't before. And so want to hear from you all, when does it make sense? What are the pros and cons? Emily, I'll start with you first.
Yeah. So my immediate thought is like when speed is of the essence. So when you want to be able to leverage your network to speed up a hiring process. And that can particularly come into practice when you have like a niche role. So a role that requires like a very specific set of skills. And especially if you come from that industry or you have a background or you have a specific network or you're part of a community of networks that would be able to deliver talent within that pool, I think it absolutely makes sense to leverage your network or network within maybe like secondary type of connections, so kind of blasting out some details on a role into your network to then share in a ripple effect scenario. But yeah, I mean, I think speed and then, niche skill sets are what immediately comes to mind for me. And then kind of a close second would be when you want to really make sure that you can deliver quality candidates. So, which kind of stems from where when you're doing a very niche search, you want to make sure that you can not only go out after the passive candidates on the market, but you also want to make sure that you can quickly deliver and get some contenders into the mix that you feel confident will interview well and also check the boxes of skills and acumen that your client would be looking for. Curious what you think, Lors.
I agree. I think a lot of times going to the network makes sense if it's, especially if you're looking to hire for a role that you've either managed or worked alongside of these people before. I think it
Sure.
makes sense to go to your network. You're going to already understand if they're a fit for the organization, like the culture, the stage or size of the organization. You'll have
Mhm.
a good sense for does their skill set and experiences align with what your current company is looking for. All of that would definitely come in handy if you're looking for speed of execution, right? You need somebody in seat quickly. But I think in general, it can yield a lot of results if your current role that you're trying to fill aligns with people that you've worked with in the past. There's been times in my career where people that I'd worked with on one side of the fence wouldn't have been a fit for the other side of the fence. So weren't
Yeah.
weren't able to take advantage of it. But the three of us have worked together multiple times. So obviously, hiring and working with people out of your network comes with a lot of advantages if it's the right synergy and the right opportunities.
Yep. When is it? So we talked about where it can be beneficial and whatnot, but when is it not beneficial? What do people do when utilizing their networks kind of in the wrong ways, or that can actually, lead them to make really bad hires?
Well, okay, this wouldn't necessarily be bad hire, maybe a bad hire decision or a biased hire decision when you use it for back channeling in scenarios where it's not absolutely necessary or you're not doing it in an ethical way. It's not always a bad thing to do that, by the way, but I think just making sure that you're doing it to qualify your assessment of a candidate versus to make the assessment for you is important. And yeah, I mean, I feel like that's a big one that immediately comes to mind. But curious what if you guys have another layer to bring to that.
I think it has its place, right? It's one of many pillars in terms of sourcing and finding the right talent for the right opportunity. I think
Mm,
if you're purely relying on your network and individuals that you've either worked directly or indirectly with, I think I mean, maybe it's a pitfall, maybe not, but you're limiting the scope of the talent that you're going to meet with for the opportunity to an
yeah,
extremely small pool. Even if you're extremely well connected, there's so many talented individuals out there. You rely just purely on your network. I mean, you're looking at a fraction of opportunity
yeah.
compared to the rest. So
To piggyback on that, you're also, you're limiting it in the sense of you're also not likely going to be able to pull in non-traditional talent.
Mhm.
And depending on what your network looks like, you could inadvertently, limit your access to diverse candidates into,
Right.
the pool of consideration. Not always the case, but I think it's having like a two-pronged approach to it where you have your existing network and then you also reach out to the market at large gives
Mhm.
you the highest likelihood of finding the right person and also helps mitigate,
Yep.
any other nuance to it.
Yep.
It's its own type of biasness.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure, for sure. I think it's like what we can do with networks is if you don't, there has to be a process at the beginning of this. And I think, Emily, you or both of you all said this, like, you've got to have a process and establish, like, what do I need for this role? And then utilize your network and then look whether you're hiring a recruiter, doing outbound, you have internal teams, whatever it is. But everyone needs to go through that same process because I feel like where networks get tricky is when you don't have them go through the same process because you're like, I feel like they're just going to work because they worked at this other company with me. And so I'm just making more assumptions than I realize because, like, I don't care who you are, you're going to have biases toward the people that you know over the people that you don't. Like, if I'm doing an interview process for, and you all are interviewing to be in that role and other people, I'm naturally going to have biases for you all that because I've just worked and known you all so long. Right. And so knowing how to do that so you don't not only not maybe make the wrong hire, but also don't miss like really great ones that are a part of building your network, right? But I
That's right.
totally agree and think it's, we're at a place now where we've got to be consistent in order to get predictable hiring, right? And really move away from this gut and feel good motion. But that's all the time we have for today. So hope this was helpful. But until next time, we'll see you later. You can follow us on our YouTube channel or at blueprintexpansion.com. We'll see you. Bye.